My friend talked about him riding motorcycles. Well, one example I'll show you is from 2007 now, if we could play that, James. And I should say this is tab 18.
Elite, never losing an election.
So, riding a Harley Davidson, shooting a semi-automatic pistol. This is the image he's trying to create from the beginning. He likes to pose with weapons. If we can go to the next one, James. This is tab 80. And here in this photo, which was published in a newspaper, you can see Mr. Duterte holding an assault rifle. And I'll just note that we also see in this photo, to the immediate left of the photo, Ronald Bato de la Rosa. Bato is the nickname. And to Mr. Duterte's immediate right, Isidro La Peña. And we'll hear more about them later. Even days before he was arrested, 3 days before he was transferred to The Hague, this tough guy persona was on display again during a speech in Hong Kong. He brushed off the possibility of an ICC arrest warrant, and he referred to the ICC, quote, as motherfuckers who have been after him for a long time, end quote. This is him on March 9th, 2025. If you could play that, James. This is tab 136.
Sa totoo lang, baka ang balita ko may warrant daw ako pag... Hindi, totoo. Yung sa ICC or something, matagal na akong hinahabol ng mga
That's him 3 days before coming to The Hague. Of course, after arriving in the Hague, his lawyers very soon began arguing that Mr. Duterte was not fit enough for these proceedings. He wasn't physically or mentally fit enough to be put on trial or for his charges to be confirmed. But fortunately, a panel of 3 medical experts that Your Honors appointed found unanimously that he is. The point is that despite what the defense may say, here or to the press, Mr. Duterte is perfectly fine. He's able to attend the proceedings today. There is nothing stopping him except that he doesn't want to be here. He chose not to face the court, not to face the victims. There is no reason for him not to be here other than his request and choice. I'll move on now briefly to his time as mayor in Davao, Your Honors. If we can quickly bring up the map, James. There we see Davao in the south. We can zoom in. I don't think there's any dispute where Davao is. He was first elected mayor of Davao City in 1988 and served as mayor for more than 20 years, between 88 and 2016. And as the deputy prosecutor has noted, jurisdiction for this case is 1st November 2011 to 16 March 2019. We're limited to that jurisdiction. So that is the period we will concentrate on today, although of course before and after may be relevant. As mayor of Davao, Mr. Duterte promised a crackdown on crime. To quote, crackdown, end quote, on crime and drugs, Mr. Duterte created liquidation squads, death squads, made up both of Davao City police officers as well as non-police officers who were essentially hired hitmen, hired killers. And this system of his became known as the Davao model. The Davao model was murder, not being tough on crime legally, as my friend said. And you have to think, it's a little strange cracking down on crime by committing the crime of murder. Of course, Mr. Duterte did not commit these crimes alone. We discussed the co-perpetrators, including during the mayoral period, in our pre-confirmation brief, Your Honors. And you'll find that at paragraphs 8 to 23. I'll talk about just a few of them now, just to introduce them. First, if we go to the slide, thank you. Ronald Bato de la Rosa, who was a chief of the Davao City Police Office, or DCPO, from 2012 to 2013. Next, Vicente Danao, another police chief in Davao during the period. Next, Christopher Bongo, who was Mr. Duterte's aide, special assistant, and important advisor from 1998 to 2016 for the Davao period, and then continued later in the presidency. Mr. Dante Guiaran, regional director of the National Bureau of Investigation. And finally, Italiano Aguirre, who is a lawyer for Mr. Duterte and for some of the DDS members during the mayoral period. And Ms. Croft will discuss these co-perpetrators and their roles in more depth in her presentation, which will be tomorrow. Let me talk now a little bit about the structure of the Davao Death Squad, or DDS. And as we say in our brief, it's a pyramidal structure. If we go, James, to the next one. Again, this colloquially became known as the Davao Death Squad, and it had a hierarchical pyramid-like structure. At the very top, as mayor, Rodrigo Duterte. And as mayor, he had, of course, de jure control over the Davao police. And the evidence shows, para 34, we talk about this in our brief, he also had de facto control. Under him were co-perpetrators, just some of whom I have mentioned. The co-perpetrators had different roles, but one of them was to relay orders and instructions down from Mr. Duterte to the DDS handlers, and also to relay reports back up to Mr. Duterte. So a typical chain of command. The instructions go down, the reports go up. And the handlers were responsible for the different death squads or DDS members. And at the very bottom, the lowest rung, the DDS members who actually perpetrated the killings, who carried out physically the murders. And they were made up of both police officers, who were generally lower level police officers, as well as non-police persons who were hired. These members at the bottom were often recruited because they had a debt or owed something to Mr. Duterte or the police, and they could therefore be controlled. And those members at the very bottom were at risk themselves, because if they did not follow orders, or if they tried to leave the DDS, they could be tortured or killed or both. And there is evidence of that in this case. I'll talk now just for a few moments about the founding of the DDS, Duterte's death squad, the genesis of the death squads. One witness described his initiation into the DDS. He described it happening in 1988 at a dinner meeting in a hotel.
Druggies, I quote, in a televised interview in 2015, this is again what he said. If I become president, you will all get wiped out. I will order your execution within 24 hours. That's what he said. That I quote directly from his word. And this quote can be found at tab 19.2 of the prosecution list of materials, ERN PHL OTP 401684, page 003, and lines, these are the lines 82 to 83. And elected he was. And becoming president,
16, he gave Mayor Espinosa,
13th of June,
then Mayor of Albuera,
2016,
24 hours to surrender to the police. And the following day, Mayor Espinosa did surrender to PMP Chief Ronald Bato de la Rosa. In a public speech on the 5th of August 2016, Mr. Duterte stated the following in reference to Mayor Espinosa's surrender, and this can be found at tab 129.
Problema niya ay yung mayor ng Albuera. Mabuti, nakaabot siya doon kay Bato na pinahanap ko, shot on sight, parang aso. Eh, ang tingin ko talaga sa inyo, kayo, parang aso.
And on around the 5th of November 2016, a few months after Mr. Duterte had him tracked down like a dog, Rolando Espinosa was murdered while in detention in Leyte Provincial Jail, together with another man, Raul Yap. According to the PMP's official narrative of this incident, there was a shootout between Espinosa and Yap and officers who attempted to serve search warrants on them while in prison. By contrast, the evidence demonstrates, as set out in paragraphs 107 to 110 of our brief, that these men were murdered in their prison cells in a coordinated operation involving various state agents. CCTV was disabled, guns were planted in their cells, rewards were paid. And as we see on the slide now on our screens, tab 48 of our list of materials, both Mr. Espinosa and Mr. Yap were included in the PRRD list, amongst other individuals whose names have been blurred by the prosecution. Rolando Espinosa in the upper row is recorded as a mayor and alleged to be a drug lord, indicated as level 4. And Raul Yap in the lower row is also alleged to be a drug lord, listed as level 3. The arrest of both men is noted, and this is shown on the right side. Then separately, it is noted that they were neutralized. And in a further indication that to neutralize meant to kill, as we see here, it is only on the date of their death, the 5th of November 2016, that they were noted as neutralized. Additionally, in the tab of the PRRD spreadsheet labeled high-value targets, now visible on our screens, there is a photo of Mayor Espinosa. He's the person in the yellow T-shirt in the second row on the far right side. As you can see from the enlarged photo, he's been crossed out in red, which, as a witness confirmed, indicates that he had been killed. And if your honours look closely at this list, you'll see it appears to be the same list that Mr. Duterte held during a speech on the 2nd of February 2017. And for reference, these are tabs 48 and 111. And Your Honours, following these murders, Mr. Duterte continued his public threats. For example, on the 9th of February 2017, he stated publicly that mayors involved in illegal drugs should resign or face death. We'll play an extract of this speech, which is at tab 132 now.
Tatawagin ko yung mga mayors, ilak ko, no, kami-kami lang. Sabihin ko talaga sa kanila. Ayun, ganun kakapal yung pinakita ko sa inyo eh. Hanapin mo yung pangalan mo dyan, mayor. Tangina, pag nandyan yung pangalan mo, may problema ka. Talagang papatayin kita.
Mr. Duterte's message to the mayors could not be clearer. If your name is in my list, then I'll kill you. And in case anyone watching this speech has any doubt about his intentions, Mr. Duterte goes on to comment on extrajudicial killings. And as he does so, Your Honours will note the nonchalant, casual manner in which he draws his finger across his throat. Let's play the video.
Wala akong ako talaga ang wala akong maipagyabang. Kaya ginadaan ko na lang sa extrajudicial killing.
And in this opulent, gilded presentation room, the officials laugh along with their president while he boasts about his skills in extrajudicial killing. And outside, on the streets of the Philippines, the bodies pile up. The evidence from one data set shows that as at the date of this speech, 9th of January 2017, almost 1,500 people had been killed in Mr. Duterte's so-called war on drugs. And that's paragraph 73 of our brief. A few months later, in an April 2017 speech, which I won't play, but is a tab 134.2, Mr. Duterte called the deceased Espinosa a, quote, son of a bitch, and after citing multiple allegations of murders by the police, he said he would pardon and reinstate any convicted police officer with a, quote, promotion to ranks higher, end quote. Your Honours, I move now to the second part of my presentation, the murders and attempted murders committed during the barangay clearance operations. And these operations were covered by the first barrel of Project Tokhang, which we looked at earlier. We'll briefly return to this document, CMC 16 2016, and the overview of the two barrels. As the slide on our screen shows, the stated aim of Project Tokhang, just focusing on the first sentence, was, quote, accelerating the drive against illegal drugs in affected barangays, end quote. And in practice, Your Honours, this meant murdering some of the most vulnerable members of Filipino society. As witnesses stated, the poor were often targeted because they were the ones least likely to file complaints against the police. To quote one witness on our next slide, he stated, "It was said that the ones that we had to do the Tokhang operation on had to be poor. Those who do not have the means to file a complaint or to complain." And similarly, another witness stated the following: "Based on what we've seen here in the Philippines, the people that were killed or could be killed were the poor, people with no means, simple people who were not able to file charges against them." Your Honours, Project Tokhang operations were implemented across the Philippines in a number of ways, as set out in paragraph 75 of our brief. And these operations frequently followed the same modus operandi, as we also set out in paragraphs 33 and 114 of our brief, which was as follows. A target was identified, often through the use of lists, such as barangay lists or police station watch lists. The target was then murdered in a police operation. Weapons, drugs, and money, or a combination thereof, were then planted at the crime scene. And then the police reports were repeatedly falsified to legitimate the operations as acts of self-defense. And in this context, as witnesses explain, the police often used the term nanlaban, which translates to fighting back, to describe incidents in which they supposedly shot a victim in self-defense. And these reports were often almost identical. In essence, copy-paste reports in which victims were frequently blamed for their own deaths. And finally, unofficial rewards were paid. Your Honours, I'll briefly focus on a few of the Count 3 incidents to illustrate this pattern. On the day of his inauguration, the 30th of June 2016, then President Duterte held a speech in Tondo, Manila, and he directly addressed the public present, including, as we will see, women and children. For reference, this is tab 127. Let's please play the clip.
Ako po'y galit. Pati yung mga pulis dito sa Maynila nakasabit sa droga. Ako po'y nakikiusap, wag ho kayong pumasok dyan kasi papatayin ko talaga kayo.
As we see, Mr. Duterte's message was clear. Stay away from drugs, or I will kill you. And the killing in Tondo began almost immediately following this speech, as we set out in our brief, paragraphs 100 to 101. I'll focus now on, and Tondo is visible on our screens, I'll focus now on incident 23, which also took place in Tondo, on or about the night of the 4th to the 5th of October 2016. As your Honours are aware, the alleged victim of this incident 23 was Benjamin Vizda. And we'll shortly see a video which shows Mr. Vizda just before midnight in a vest, in handcuffs, forced onto a motorbike between two police officers and driven away. And this is tab 76, and we'll play the video now. And we see now Mr. Vizda being forced onto the motorbike between the two police officers. And as he's being driven away, we see women and children chasing after him, no doubt terrified about what would happen next. And around 20 minutes later, Your Honours, Mr. Vizda was dead, shot multiple times in the head by police officers. A witness described the scene, and Your Honours, the next slide will be a graphic image. And for reference, this is tab 77. The witness stated, quote, "The victim was lying on the street in handcuffs and was dead. He'd been shot in the head 7 or 8 times," end quote. The official account of this incident was recorded in a police report known as a Spot Report, dated the 5th of October 2016. This is tab 65. And this report, an extract of which is on the screen, stated that Mr. Vizda was killed by the police in self-defense after he snatched the firearm of a police officer while he was on a motorbike, while wearing handcuffs, and he shot at the police but missed. Your Honours, as demonstrated by the evidence in paragraph 126 of our brief, this narrative is false. Benjamin Vizda did not fight back. He was murdered. Your Honours, Project Tokhang was also carried out through one-time, big-time, or OTBT operations. And these were large-scale, high-intensity police operations that often resulted in multiple murders. And one such operation took place in Bulacan, shown on our screens, between the 15th and the 16th of August 2017. In August 2017, the police made a press release regarding their recent operations, which noted that 30 simultaneous one-time big-time operations from the 15th to the 16th of August 2017. This press release, which can be found at tab 108, is visible on our screens. In the headline, we read, quote, 32 killed, 107 arrested, as firearms, grenades, and numerous illegal drugs were seized in Bulacan, PMP, simultaneous big-time operations. And focusing, Your Honours, on the paragraph at the bottom of the screen, we see that the deaths of these 32 people were recorded as, quote, significant results, end quote, of the, quote, intensified campaign against illegal drugs, otherwise known as Project Double Barrel Reloaded, end quote. And this was essentially a reinvigorated version of Project Double Barrel, as set out in our brief footnote 37. And the press release goes on to name the 32 victims of this operation, which included 3 victims who are victims of charged incidents 28 and 29 in this case, who were murdered, consistent with the pattern of the other incidents in count 3, as set out in paragraphs 131 to 132 of our brief. Your Honours, 32 individuals killed by the police in Bulacan in a 24-hour period. You would imagine this would be a major national incident. So how did Mr. Duterte react to this shocking news? Let's hear what he said, and for reference, this is tab 147.
Yung namatay daw kanina sa Bulacan 32, yun yung massive raid. Ganda yun. Makapatay lang tayo ng mga another 32 every day, then maybe we can reduce the what ails this country.
So that was the President's message in response to the death of 32 Filipinos in a single day. He essentially said to the police, well done, keep going, let's kill another 32 every day. And, Your Honours, in this context, as you would expect, the killings went on and on. This phase of one-time, big-time operations continued until around the 18th of August 2017, resulting in many more deaths. As one witness stated, quote, it was hunting season, a killing spree, end quote. And that's at tab 77. And on the evening of the 16th of August, in the midst of this killing spree, perhaps at the same time as Mr. Duterte's speech in Bulacan, a 17-year-old child named Kian de los Santos was murdered in Caloocan, the location of which is marked on our screens. And this is charged incident 30. As usual, the police claimed that Kian de los Santos shot at them and they were forced to shoot him dead in self-defense. Another victim blamed for his death. As set out in our brief, paragraph 133, this account is contradicted by CCTV footage showing police dragging the child across the ground, and other evidence shows that after pleading for his life, he was shot twice in the head. And the next slide is a graphic image, Your Honours, and that's tab 151. On our screens, we see the tragic image of the body of the 17-year-old child, Kian de los Santos. And as noted in our brief, paragraph 56, this brutal murder led to a massive public outcry across the Philippines. And in these circumstances, exceptionally, the direct perpetrators of these murders were prosecuted and they were imprisoned. And in the face of this public outcry, Mr. Duterte was forced to temporarily withdraw police from drug operations from the 10th of October to the 4th of December 2017. And this led to a reduction in the frequency of killings. In announcing this temporary withdrawal, Mr. Duterte sarcastically stated that he hoped that this would satisfy, quote, bleeding hearts and the media, end quote. And in this way, he publicly communicated that this was not a genuine effort to prevent crime, but rather a temporary attempt to placate public criticism. And less than 2 months later, Mr. Duterte decided to once again scale up operations. He ordered the PNP back into the campaign, and the killings once again intensified. And, Your Honours, regrettably, children continued to be the victims of these killings. Your Honours will recall that at the very start of his presidency, Mr. Duterte gave a speech in Tondo, and we saw a part of it earlier. This is tab 127 on our list of materials, and we'll watch another portion of that speech now.
Yung mga adik ho dyan, kayo na lang ho ang pumatay. Kung anak niya, ikaw ang pumatay. Kung anak niyang adik, kayo ang pumatay para hindi masyado masakit.
If it's someone's child, be the killer yourself. If someone's child is the addict, then you be the one to kill. Your Honours, it's